The regional BRVM stock market ended another week in positive territory, supported by rising trading activity, gains across several indexes, and spectacular rebounds in a number of stocks. Welcome to this weekly edition of Markets Talk, the podcast by Daba Finance. Today, we review market activity from July 13 to 17. We will cover the BRVM indexes, the week's top stocks, bond market trading, dividend announcements, and the major economic developments investors should understand. Let us begin with the overall market trend. The BRVM composite, which tracks all listed companies, rose 0.76% to close at 478.53 points. The BRVM 30, which follows 30 of the market's largest and most actively traded companies, performed even better. It rose 1.20% to 227.70 points. The BRVM principal recorded the strongest index performance, rising 2.56% to 362.87 points. The BRVM Prestige moved in the opposite direction. It fell 1.61% to 175.4 points. Why does this difference matter? It shows that the week's gains were not evenly distributed across the market. Some major stocks supported the broader indexes, while several companies in the prestige segment experienced profit-taking or weaker buying interest. In other words, the market rose, but investors still need to look beneath the headline numbers. Of the 47 stocks traded during the week, 23 rose and 24 fell. Sellers therefore held a slight advantage in terms of the number of stocks, even though the main indexes finished higher. This is an important reminder. A rising market index does not mean every listed company is gaining. Trading activity strengthened considerably. Almost 16,000 and 75,000 shares changed hands, representing a 13.87% increase from the previous week. The total value of transactions also rose 5.16% to approximately 12.8 billion CFA francs. The equity market's total capitalization, meaning the combined value of all listed companies, increased 0.76% to approximately 18,434 billion CFA francs. Trading activity was highly concentrated. Ecobank Transnational Incorporated accounted for more than 92% of the total number of shares traded. This was partly due to its low price per share, which makes it possible to exchange a very large number of shares with a comparatively modest amount of money. By transaction value, Sonatel Senegal led the market. Approximately 3.03 billion CFA francs worth of Sonatel shares changed hands, representing slightly more than 25% of the week's total trading value. The distinction between trading volume and trading value is important. A company can dominate the market by number of shares without attracting the largest amount of capital. Let us now turn to the week's top stocks. Uniwax Côte d'Ivoire delivered the strongest performance. Its share price jumped 37.69% to close at 1,645 CFA franc. The rebound followed several difficult weeks and was supported by encouraging half-year results and a reassuring annual general meeting, during which management presented its strategic ambitions. For investors, the rally demonstrates how quickly market sentiment can change when a company's results or outlook improve. However, after such a sharp rise over only a few trading sessions, caution remains necessary. Part of the company's potential may already be reflected in its share price. Africa Global Logistics, Côte d'Ivoire, recorded the second-best performance, rising 23.08% to 2,720 CFA francs. Bank of Africa Burkina Faso completed the top three with a 19.01% gain, closing at 7,200 CFA francs. These performances point to renewed interest across several areas of the market, including industry, logistics, and financial services. At the other end of the market, Société Multinationale de Bitume fell 12.14% to 15,195 CFA franc. The decline appears to reflect profit-taking. In simple terms, some investors sold their shares to secure gains after the stock's strong performance in previous weeks. Sicable Côte d'Ivoire fell 7.61%, while Société de distribution d'eau de Côte d'Ivoire declined 6.73%. Now let us examine the bond market. The total capitalization of listed bonds declined for a second consecutive week. It stood at approximately 13,031 billion CFA francs after falling 0.52%. A total of 204,195 bonds were traded, with transactions valued at approximately 2.03 billion CFA francs. Most activity was concentrated in Côte d'Ivoire's 15-year Treasury bond carrying an annual coupon of 5.75%. A total of 100,000 units were traded for 1 billion CFA francs. This single bond represented nearly half of all bond market transactions during the week. Why are investors interested in this type of investment? Government bonds generally provide income that is known in advance, called a coupon. They can also reduce the volatility of a portfolio that is heavily invested in stocks. Bonds can therefore serve as a stabilizing element when equity prices become more uncertain. Several important developments also emerged across the West African Economic and Monetary Union. NSIA Banque Côte d'Ivoire reported net profit of 40.7 billion CFA francs for 2025, an increase of 7%. Loans rose 18%, while customer deposits climbed 32%. Even more importantly, its results for the first quarter of 2026 showed stronger momentum. Net banking income increased 28%, while net profit rose 53%. For investors, this suggests the bank's growth was not limited to the previous financial year. Its earnings momentum appears to have continued into 2026. In Côte d'Ivoire, Majoris Financial Group received approval to launch Sirius Bank Côte d'Ivoire. The arrival of another institution could increase competition in banking services, lending, and financial inclusion. The United States also announced several projects in Côte d'Ivoire. These include approval for Starlink to begin commercial operations, a $170 million digital infrastructure project, and a $293 million healthcare infrastructure program. For businesses, stronger internet connectivity and digital infrastructure can reduce costs, improve productivity, and accelerate the development of online commerce. In Burkina Faso, Africa Finance Corporation released the first $60 million from a financing package for a 119-megawatt power plant. The project is intended to reduce the country's dependence on imported electricity. More reliable power can support factories, small businesses, private investment, and job creation. Let us finish with dividends. A total of 34 of the BRVM's 47 listed companies have announced dividends for the 2025 financial year. The estimated average yield is 4.66%. Among the confirmed payments, Server Abidjan will distribute 124 CFA francs per share on September 30. Solibra plans to pay 171.66 CFA francs per share. Compagnie Ivoirienne d'Électricité will distribute 255.42 CFA francs. Banque Internationale pour l'Industrie et le Commerce will pay 254,60 CFA francs, and Société Ivoirienne de Banque will distribute 365 CFA francs. Several dividends have already been paid, including those from Sonatel, Orange Côte d'Ivoire, EcoBank Côte d'Ivoire, Bank of Africa Côte d'Ivoire, and Bank of Africa Burkina Faso. Download the Daba app to access the full dividend calendar, including confirmed payments, ex-dividend dates, and estimated yields. For the week ahead, opportunities are emerging in both stocks and bonds. Several financial companies continue to show strong fundamentals and potential for further value creation. On the bond market, selected government securities are offering yields to maturity of approximately 7% to 8.6%. However, not every apparent opportunity is suitable for every investor. Valuation, financial performance, liquidity, and risk must all be considered before investing. The specific companies and detailed recommendations are reserved for Daba Pro subscribers. Daba Pro gives you weekly recommendations, detailed market analysis, exclusive data, and reduced investing fees. With Daba Pro, you do not simply follow the markets, you stay ahead of them. Those who want to learn how to analyze stocks, understand bonds, and build their own investment strategy can also join Daba Academy. A special promotion is currently available. Use the code PODCAST when registering to receive a discount of 3,000 CFA francs on your Daba Academy registration. This was your weekly market recap on Markets Talk, the podcast by Daba Finance. I am your markets editor, always connected to the pulse of Francophone Africa. See you soon. Stay curious, stay invested.